Hey everybody, it's Romania Black. We are on episode 6 of Demon Slayer Season 2, and I wanted to support Zenitsu a little bit, so I got my little, my Raijin, my Thunder Team Haikyuu jersey on, but yeah, this season's getting really good. I've actually taken like nearly a week off from episode 5, and I know that sounds crazy because episode 5, left on a pretty big cliffhanger, and they were like, oh, well, what's gonna happen to Tanjiro? And that's honestly the reason why I've waited a week, because I'm nervous. I'm so nervous for Tanjiro. I don't know. Tanjiro is playing a dangerous game, and I'm like, dude, she's like, even though she's like the 6th upper moon, she's still an upper moon, and you're not ready. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's gonna go bad. I don't want Tanjiro to get really injured, but we had this great, glorious montage of Inosuke and Zenitsu and Tengen and his 3 wives all uniting. I'm like, okay, great. You guys are all together. Now go rescue Tanjiro, because he needs it, right? Especially when Muzan's like, get rid of him. So, I don't know. I do have one comment, though, before we start. Alexander Q with episode 4, that's just came out on YouTube, and episode 5 came out on Patreon yesterday, said that Nezuko, I talked about in episode 4 about how the demons hadn't really noticed Nezuko in the box, and Alexander Q brought up a really good point that maybe there was some magic imbued on the box that kept the demons from noticing her. And I was like, I couldn't remember. It's been a long time since I've watched season 1, if I'm honest, like over a year. So I was like, I can't remember if the Water Tribe Master put any kind of spell on the box to keep it safe. If he did, it must only be for demons, because Zenitsu, he could hear Nezuko in the box and knew she was a demon. So humans wouldn't be able to be impervious to it, but maybe it was to keep demons from noticing. I don't know. And maybe Zenitsu can notice because he has, the sound breathing kind of branched off into the thunder breathing. So I don't know. That's interesting, but that was a really good point, Alexander, that you brought up. I'm glad that you did. So yeah, I'm really nervous. I don't know what to expect. So I've waited a solid week, and I was like, no, I need to watch episode 6. And the only comment on Patreon so far for episode 5 was, yeah, the urge to binge is going to be there. And I was like, oh no! So the cliffhangers in this season have been so ridiculous. I don't know, y'all. I may end up having to watch ahead if this episode's too bad. I don't know, but let's find out. Let's not waste any more time. So we're going to start episode 6 of Demon Slayer Season 2. We're halfway through, y'all, and I don't know how to feel about it, but we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Oh, that was a shonen battle. It's been a while. I'll be honest, I really like Demon Slayer because it is a traditional, it's funny, it is a traditional battle shonen, but it's also really progressive and modernized, and there's lots of, it's called Layered Memories, this episode, which we'll talk about those layered memories. Holy crap. And there's a lot of world building stuff that this episode kind of alluded to. There's that. But lots of things happening in this episode. But what I like about Demon Slayer is that it is a battle shonen, and it's been a while since on this channel I've watched a really good battle-y, like traditional style shonen, and it has all the hallmarks, but it does so. Tanjiro is such a cinnamon bun of a protagonist that he's a lot different protagonist than most battle shonens, action shonens do have in them. I think Jujutsu Kaisen's the only other one I've really watched on this channel at this point. But it's so good. But, there's lots of... I like that this series, it's doing some shonen battle-like tropes, but it does so in a way that is kind of clever and adds to the tension of it. And we'll talk about that with Tanjiro and his, going into overdrive. Tanjiro and Nezuko, those Kamado siblings, you don't make them mad. They're cinnamon rolls until you make them mad, and then it's not good, right? I forget their last name is Kamado. I'm so used to calling them by their first names. When we saw Shinjiro writing the letter, I was like, Kamado, and then I was like, oh, that's Tanjiro's last name. We just never call him that, right? So it would be hilarious if Inosuke got his last name right, but not his first name. That'd actually be hilarious. I'd be all about that. But man, let me say, the voice actress playing Daki the demon, she is wonderful. I freaking loved her voice acting in this episode when she was like, huh? What? what's that? Like, just the way that she goes from being this, like, venomous honey tone to just being, like, snarky and snide and condescending to being, like, when she's confused, she almost seems childish when she's confused. She's like, wait, what are you doing? Like, it's a complete tonal shift. It's a complete voice change, but it's still her. It's so good. I was like, I've watched the English dub of season 1 of Demon Slayer. When I went back and rewatched it, I watched the English dub. And so I've not watched the English dub of this second season yet. So I haven't heard her voice actress, but I'm almost afraid to because I really love the voice actress playing Daki. I was like, I don't know if it'll be as good. I like Tanjiro's English voice actor. He's a lot of fun. He's cute. But yeah, this whole sun breathing, yeah, Muzan gonna have some issues. And we're gonna talk about that other sun breather in her memories that Muzan clearly has fought against. That's interesting. So, it's so good. Let's get past the OP, though. I love that she's been fighting in those giant high heels this entire time. That's actually great. The action in Demon Slayer is just wonderful. Ufotable does such a good job of animating this series, and the animation and action is so fluid and just seamless, and just it gets fast, it gets slow. The animators for this series take their time and put such care and craft into doing all the little action scenes that you get the tension. And even when there's like slow motion moments, it doesn't feel like, I'm not really a fan of slow motion in action scenes, like the whole Matrix, the slow motion stuff. I think it gets overused so easily. But with this series and the fact that you have these elegant breathing techniques that are like artwork, they're like artistry in motion, that in those cases, I feel like the slow motion can work to its benefit to kind of show off the artistry of the battle and kind of make it more elegant and kind of finessed. And so it works for this, especially with the sun breathing. It works a lot. And it also works to show that Tanjiro's smart. He is smart. He's not like a super genius battle tactician, but he's smart enough to know, like, okay, these bands of ribbons are all moving around. If I get them all together and compress them, I can slice them, because by themselves, they're too soft. They're easily bending around my blade. Like, he's smart in that regard. But man, I thought this whole episode Tengen was going to step in. I thought Tengen was going to step in and that was going to be it. But no, he's not made it there yet. I just picture Tengen showing up and seeing Nezuko and being like, who's that? And Zenitsu wakes up and he's like, don't attack my wife! Don't attack my waifu! I'm imagining that Nosuke's like, no, she's with us! She's a demon that fights with us. But Tengen has met Nezuko before. Tengen has met Nezuko back in season 1, so he knows that she is working with them. So that is true. He was there when all that happened. So the ribbons come back to her. So we do get established that the ribbons were part of her to begin with, and they just like go inside of her neck and inside of her head, like they reinsert themselves into her. Like, and it's almost like against her will. Like she just sits there like a doll and lets them come back into her body. Ugh. It's kind of disgusting. But it's also like the demon on Mugen Train, where when he split his body apart and made different pieces of him, he wasn't complete. And the belts coming back to her, like, complete her and make her more, and transform her into what she supposedly looks like. I'm gonna say, I'm wondering if that monstrous thing in the OP is her true form. I'm wondering if that's her true form, because she has made a big deal this entire season so far about how ugly Tanjiro is and about how she only wants to eat beautiful creatures and only wants to eat beautiful people. And she's so vain and considers vanity so much that I'm like, is it because you know what you really look like? Like, she puts on this front in front of Muzan and like looks like this beautiful demon, but she's so corrupted from the inside out that we see a little glimpse of it here. Like, she goes from looking slightly humanoid, she still looks slightly human with the black hair. She just has the flowers and stuff on her. And Tanjiro like takes advantage of this moment to be like, I like that Tanjiro takes a moment to like get his breathing under control and be like, okay, cool. But he doesn't just sit there and let her transform. Again, so shonen trope number 1 that gets subverted is that Tanjiro does not sit there Dragon Ball Z style and wait for her to transform. I was like, thank you for not doing that. He like gets it under control and gets himself regulated, and then he's like, okay, I'm on the attack again, and goes at her. I'm like, thank God you did not just sit there and let that happen. But the belts coming back to her give her surveillance and give her information. So she realized that Tengen is there and he's a Hashira. And she gets all excited because she wants to kill a Hashira for Mr. Muzan because she's trying to impress him. So then we get this whole, her transformation. The Hashira did come after all. And she has like all the veins and stuff, kind of like what happens with Nezuko. And her hair has the two-toned ombre like Nezuko's does, right? Only hers is green and white. Her hair turns white, kind of like the spider demons. But here's the thing. I feel like this is all still an act. It's just not revealing her true form. Because I think in the OP, the monster that you see there, I think in the OP had like all of these like bandages wrapped around them like a mummy. I wonder if those are like the ribbons and stuff. I just wonder if that thing in the OP that looks kind of monstrous and disgusting is her true form and she can't take it. She can't stand the fact that she's corrupted to the point of becoming like this. Because I don't know. It's either that monster in the OP is her and her true form, or they're going to introduce another demon in the 7th hour to come and help her. And I'm like, we don't need that. I don't want any more upper moons coming. Let her fight herself. I don't want to cause it to show up or anything like that. No. I think it's her. And he's like, what an ominous scent. It's making the back of my throat sting with pain. And she's gained more power. Yeah, she just wants to get powerful to do what she wants. And we get her backstory. We essentially get all the backstory we need to know about her in this episode, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But Tanjiro, he's like, okay, is Uzui, which is Tengen with Inosuke and the others. And he's like, okay, if they're all together, I'm fine. I'm like, they are, but you are not fine. And then this guy coming out. What's the deal with the sword? This guy. Note to self, whenever you think there might be an apocalyptic battle going on, don't go outside and start yelling at the monsters and the man with the sword. Stay in your home. That's the moral of the story. Because otherwise I think they would have been fine. I think they would have been just fine if they just stayed in their house. But no, they couldn't do it. And Tanjiro was like, oh my God, we made too much noise. And I just love, we see all these people from earlier in this season. We see them all in the house and everything. And it just becomes a bloodbath. Like, Daki's like, I'm done. I hate it. Like, shut your trap. I'm in the middle of finding this Hashira. I don't care about any of you. Like, at this point, it's funny because she's killed Hashira before, right? She's killed multiple Hashira before. So why is she so willing to blow her cover for this specific one? Unless it's one that she thinks is going to impress Muzan even more. I don't know. But the animation of just that whole battle and the bandages and everything, they slice his shoulder, they cut that guy's hand off, and then they just wreck the building. Like, it's just destroyed. And it just all, like, Ufotable just, it all collapses. And just, there's just blood and people dying and dead everywhere. It's gruesome. It's so gruesome. Like, this show spared no expense to be like, oh, we're not footing around here. We're going to show you all the devastation and disgustingness. And it's horrific. Like, that one guy, half his head is missing. As she's holding him and crying, hero, half his head is gone. They show you half his skull missing. I'm like, I didn't know I was watching Attack on Titan today. I didn't know I was doing that. Wasn't prepared for the carnage that we see here. And Tanjiro being like, you'll survive, wrap your arm up, and he's just like bleeding everywhere. And I love that the demon, that Daki, she's just like, whatevs, I'm going. And that's what gets Tanjiro. The fact that she didn't care. She just left. He's like, you just killed these people and you don't even care for no reason. And she's like, oh, I don't care. You got something to say to me? That's enough, ugly one. The repulsive have no reason to live anyway. Which I feel like is going to be the biggest irony. I feel like by the end of this season, she's going to be the most repulsive. And she thinks that the others that aren't beautiful have no reason to live, but it's her that it's reflecting on, obviously. So you all can just die and rot together. And then Tanjiro, at that point, that's what gets him angry. Because he thinks back to his family. And when she says you all can die and rot together, he thinks back to his family and how they must have been all like torn to pieces and screaming and suffering like this, and no one came to help them. And just, I I'm very sensitive with my eyes, so whenever his eyes starts bleeding, that to me is so disgusting. I was like, nope, the eye bleeding, could do without that. All the veins in his eyes bursting, nope. And Tanjiro just gets pissed. And then we cut to Rengoku's dad writing him the letter. I imagine that is the one thing about this series too, in a traditional shonen format, is that watching this episode, I can just see where the chapter cutoffs were in the manga. I feel like the end there where Tanjiro's eyes start to bleed, that was the end of a chapter. The moment where he gets close to Daki and like zooms past all her ribbons and they all explode, that was the end of a chapter. Whenever Nezuko transformed and we see her like with the vines on her body and the horn, that was the end of a chapter. Like, I feel like we went through 3 chapters in this episode of the manga. And it just, because you can just tell those breaks. I think if you've read manga long enough, especially for shonen, you kind of get where those breaks happen because they, you know, have to have a cliffhanger, right? And so there's like all these little mini cliffhangers within the episode. But I love this transition. Like, this feels like the start of a new chapter, right? Where he's writing the letter. And I like that we get a little bit of world building with him. He's like, thank you for mourning for my son. And you've also been exchanging a letter with Shinjiro the past 4 months. And I love that he's like, I love one that Tanjiro's been writing letters to Shinjiro. Sweet. I know a lot of people in the Discord were like shipping them together. And I was like, yeah, okay, I see it. It's cute. And then also noticing that Shinjiro's in a much better place because Tanjiro's been talking to him. Like, that connection's really helped him. And I like that he apologizes for that first meeting they had. He's like, I'm sorry. He's like, at a time when my own incompetence left me shattered. So we see him mourning over the loss of his wife, and he feels like he was incompetent and couldn't do anything. Things went from bad to worse when my beloved wife succumbed to illness. Like, he couldn't. So seeing him mourn his wife, and then we find out that his whole drinking and everything, he just drunk himself into a stupor. Like, he was foolish and he just wallowed in despair, even though he had 2 sons right there in front of him that needed him. That's so sad. And I love that Rengoku, because Rengoku is freaking pure. Kyojuro, he says, unlike me, he was a fine son. He still read the flame breathing books, the guides, all 3 volumes, and became a Hashira. Even though there were only 3 volumes. Yeah, I love it. And I love that he corrects himself here in the letter. He says he must have had more of Ruka. He must have more of his mother's blood. Like, he gets a little personal there, and then he's like, wait, this is a letter to like some kid that I barely know. Like, he says his wife's name, and then he corrects himself. His wife was beautiful. Ruka was gorgeous. Both Kyojuro and Shinjiro are fine boys. And Kamado, you have an even more amazing power. I love that it's a great transition. He's like, I hear those that are chosen to wield sun breathing are born with the same red mark on their forehead that you have. So that's so curious that he says that. I'm sure. And I love that. So Tanjiro has read this letter. So going back, we cut back to the present, and Tanjiro is like, no, you're wrong. So he's reflecting back on the letter that Shinjiro sent him, but he's like, no, you're wrong. And so again, the other subversion number 2 of Shonen is that Tanjiro does not quite fit the chosen one metaphor, right? I mean, granted, this whole thing with Muzan, the fact that he's fought one of his ancestors, you could kind of tie it into that. But I like that he says, no, he's like, I wasn't born with this red mark, with this scar. He's like, originally it was a burn mark when he protected his brother from like a falling like kettle there, right? He's like, but then later on when I was training for the trials, I injured myself during the final selection. So he's like, that's how it ended up the way that it is now. Yet he's like, my father was born with that mark, but I was not. He's like, not the case with me. I must not be a chosen wielder. And I like that Tanjiro believes he's not part of that narrative, that chosen one narrative, that this is all, because he said, last episode, he is not a chosen water breather like what he trained to be. That's not him. He thinks he's with the sun breathing. It's in his blood, but he's like, I'm not a chosen sun breather. It's going to be even harder on me, but it's what's most compatible with my body, so I'm going to try it. But I like that narrative that it's not really the chosen one. He's making himself the chosen one. And I like that. I like that Tanjiro does it. And he's just like, I cannot forgive somebody that needlessly kills like this. Even if I'm not a chosen one, even if I'm not up to the task. I love it. I love that, just a blood running down his face. There are times I can't back down. I'm like, oh, such a good shonen protagonist. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he blames her for killing without a second thought, with no hint of remorse. And I love that he stops her. Like, he just stops her and grabs her foot and just slices her foot. I love it. Oh, that shot. That's so good. I actually want to take a picture of that. I want to get a good close-up of that, where he just grabs her foot before she can leap off to go after Tengen. Mm-hmm. Oh, God, that's so good. Yes! Oh, I love it. That just look on his face. It's so freaking good. Yep. That may be the thumbnail. That's a really good shot. I love it. There was a lot of good shots in this. I don't know how I'm going to pick a thumbnail. Don't know how. No, the fluid motion of her, like, spinning around and back, kicking him away. It's so freaking good. And he's like, you kill it, and he just throws her leg aside. He's like, those people can never come back. And she's like, so? Those made of flesh and blood can't do what demons do. Why would you rob them of their lives? Why would you trample on them? And then she says, I've heard those words before. So this is the whole scene. So we get the guy that we saw the back of his head in season 1, with Muzan remembering the back of his head, standing there with the long flowing hair like Tanjiro during his selection and like his father. And he has the scar and the Hashira ear and the earrings. What do you find so entertaining? What is amusing about this? Ooh. What do you take life for exactly? Oh my gosh, yes. And she's like, I don't know who that is. She's like, what is this? And he's like, why can't you understand? How can you forget? Ooh. And she's like, this isn't me. These aren't my memories. So they're layered. So layered memories is just, if you're a demon, you're not only getting your own memories, but Muzan's memories can possibly transfer to you too. And Muzan can know what they think, and he can cyclically be connected to them. So if he's seeing Tanjiro and hearing Tanjiro say these words, then he's remembering the same things that she's seeing in her vision. So that's interesting. And then, yeah, we get this image of this man, and she figures it out. And then he's coming towards... He has a red blade. Right? That's what the swordsmith wanted Tanjiro to have, was the red blade. He's like, memories of the cells. Mm-hmm. Going after Muzan. Interesting. So the question is, did he hurt Muzan? Was he killed by Muzan? We don't know. We don't know yet. And of course, we don't get any more of that. We cut back to the cave, because that's how this show works. Just a little nugget, a crumb of foreshadowing that we may learn more about this guy as we go. And that's interesting, because Tanjiro needs to know more about sun breathing. This guy clearly is probably a sun breather, so we'll probably get more of that as we get through the series. Good to note. But yeah, I like Tengen's trying to play these stupid mice, these stupid muscle mice. I'm like, show you... Mangaka, you put in the weirdest comedy relief at the weirdest times. Like, of all times have these muscular mice dance about. Now you choose? Okay. And then I love that Inosuke's like, hey, let's go after the belt. Probably going to lead us to the demon. And I just, I take it back. Whenever Tengen yells back at Inosuke with the bug eyes, originally... I thought Tengen and Inosuke were very connected. No. It is Zenitsu that Tengen is most like. That bug-eyed, that screaming. It's Zenitsu. It's Zenitsu. Yep. Worship and praise me. Yep. We'll discuss the other thing later. And then it's the wives who are like, go after the ribbon. We got this. We're fine. Don't worry about us. You go. It's the wives that get him to go. Yeah, I love it. He's like, come on, boys. What a husbando. What a husbando indeed. Like, just letting the wives dictate what he ends up doing. I love that Zenitsu runs while he's sleeping. It's so cute. It's great. And then Tengen is just so freaking fast and ridiculous. Yep. And Inosuke's like, oh my god, it's too much. So, cutting back to the demon, speaking of layered memories, she's like, what is it? And he's like, you were human once. I love that Tanjiro's hair is just like, it looks like he stuck his entire hand into a light socket and his hair is just like, it's just all like flared out. Like, just like it's static. He says, you were human once, weren't you? You must have shed tears once, struggling against pain and suffering. And she's like, quit rambling. You don't know me. That was her basic response. You don't know who I am. And she says, I don't remember anything about my past. But we see in the next 30 seconds that is clearly a lie. She does remember her past. And she's like, I'm a demon now. Who cares? And so we see her in the flashback. And what I love about this flashback is it's all we need. We don't need any giant backstory. In 3 images, we get to know everything we need to know about her and why she chose to become a demon. She says demons never grow old, so they never like wither away and get ugly and die. And we see her slumped up against the wall like she's starving, right? We see that. That's image 1. They don't need money to eat. So that's the thing too. You're free from society and its rules and regulations, right? So that picture of her against the wall, they don't get sick. Image number 2 is a woman that's clearly her mother, that is, I'm going to assume is her mother, passed out there on the ground, and there's flies and stuff like buzzing over her like she's been dead, and there's blood all around her face, so I'm wondering if she got sick and she just coughed up blood and collapsed and died. So that's image number 2. Demons don't get sick. They don't die, and they have nothing to lose. And we see like the hand, like the dirty hand holding the clean one, right? So that's the only image that we don't get any explanation for, the image of the hands holding through the straw. They don't have anything to lose. So she's clearly lost her family, but we don't know if that image in the straw is her mother's hand or if it's somebody else she knows, if she lost someone later on, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back and she decided to become a demon after that. But those 3 images, that's all. If we don't find out what the deal with this hand in the straw is, it's fine. We don't need to know anymore. Those 3 images give us all the backstory we need to know why she became a demon. Her hardships led her to make that choice, right? Which is interesting because Tanjiro connects that hardship to your humanity. He's like, well, you know, people suffer and stuff. He's like, don't you have any empathy? You know, because you probably have suffered too. And she's like, yeah, that's why I became a demon, so I don't have to suffer like that. So that's an interesting argument that a lot of these demons became probably so to escape that pain and suffering, whereas Tanjiro considers it part of the human experience, that it's something you grapple with and you have to move forward from, and it's just part of what you deal with as a person, whereas she's like, no, I became a demon to get away from all that. So that adds another layer to the lore of why people become demons. It's great. And she's like, we beautiful, powerful demons can do anything we want. Yeah, that word beautiful in there, I'm telling you, I think her real true Frieza form is that disgusting looking mummy in the OP that we don't get a good shot of. But I could be wrong. I'm ready to be wrong. Tanjiro's like, fine, enough. He's like, I tried to reason with you and it's not going to work. I also like how the blood on his face kind of looks like the blood that's around Tengen's eye. The pattern of it. It's interesting. And Tanjiro just whoop, zoops in. He zoops in to fight her. I was like, okay. It's like Tanjiro tried to reason with you and it didn't work. And so then we get this amazing shonen battle. It's so freaking good. I love it so much. It's great. It combines like the action, the choreography, the technique, everything. But here's the thing. The whole time this battle was happening, I was wondering if they were going to make this, because Demon Slayer does a thing where it doesn't like it's done the other 2 examples. It subverts the shonen trope. And so I was like, you know, when a character like Tanjiro, who's our protagonist, has this amazing OP moment where he's at his limits and moving beyond them, and he's slicing through the ribbons and everything. In some shonen manga, he would win this fight, and that would be that, and that would just be like his next step in his evolution as the protagonist. He would just be getting stronger that way. But in the back of my head, I was like, Demon Slayer doesn't do that. There are repercussions for that happening. And so I was like, when's he going to give out? But then the battle keeps going on, right? The battle keeps going. And so you kind of forget. You keep thinking, okay, he's at his limit. He's past his limit. When's he going to collapse? But then the battle keeps going, and it's so tense and fast-paced that you're like, what do we do? And then Tanjiro's just sitting there being OP, and you forget about it. And then right when he's about to kill her, right when he has her right there, when he does the move where he slaps, where he gets the ribbons tightened, and then he just slingshots himself and slices the ribbons and goes to kill her. It's so glorious. That imagery of her like as the neck with the ribbon so he can't decapitate her. Oh, but yeah, you just forget. And then right there, when he's about to kill her, when he has the shot, when he's right there, that's when, luckily, his sibling shows up in his mind. His sibling is like, you gotta breathe, you're about to die. And he's like, oh shit. And then again, the third subversion of shonen trope is in the climax of the battle, Tanjiro loses consciousness. And it all catches up to him. It's great. It's such tension. It's such tension. I love it so much. It's wonderful. But yeah, that whole shot of him like going and killing her, the animation, and I love that it's so, again, he says it's simple. Everything's simple. And it's the flames and everything around him, and it's all in slow motion. It's so wonderful. I just had to bring my sword down faster than they can start bending. Yeah, just figuring out what he needs to do and how simple it truly is. And then his sister saying, big brother, breathe. Like he was about to pass out. And his sister in his mind saves him. Like he got so consumed with the battle that he pushed past his limits and was about to die. And she's just like, dodge that bullet! Oh my God, that was so much tension. And I really thought at this point that Tengen was going to show up. I thought Tengen was going to show up, or Inosuke and Zenitsu, and they're going to come at her from behind. I forgot about Nezuko. That headshot, they did like a three-peat on that. They did a repeat 3 times where it's like boom, boom, boom. Her kicking the head off. Oh, that was so good. That was so freaking good. Nezuko is my girl. She is best girl. I freaking love Nezuko, and I forget how much fun she is to watch in fights like this. Like, Nezuko is just so much fun to watch. She's great. But God, that kick and her going through the power line and all the electricity, oh, it was great. And just, oh. And they animate her head, like her expression right before her head blows off. Great. And then I forgot she can regenerate the head because we saw Tamio, I forgot. I kept thinking the doctor demon, her name, it's Tamio. She gets brought up in this. Her and her assistant. And poor Tanjiro. And Tanjiro, he's got that wound across his shoulder and now it's to his heart. Dude, you gotta take it easy, hun. You're out. He's out. Not good, Cotton. But, and all Nezuko could think of is her family being killed, and she associates this demon with that. And, she's like, it's you, isn't it? You're the one he was talking about. And we see her like all coiled up against Muzan. And Muzan, I think, just humors her. I think she's all cuddled up next to him. And I think he just humors her because she's good at her job and he wants to use her. So he's like, I'll pet your head. But there's no love there or affection at all. And he just wants her to find there's a demon who slipped from my grasp just like Tamio. So Tamio, she was one demon that Muzan created, obviously, and Tamio got away, but now Nezuko's the second. So only Tamio's gotten away from him. Interesting. Tamio was one of my favorite characters from season 1, And I love her a lot. She's probably my favorite. Other than Nezuko, she's probably my favorite female character in this show, Tamio is. And so I really am hoping we get more of her in future seasons. Obviously, she has nothing to do now except for sending, Yuri or Yui, whatever that white-haired boy's name is, to go find more samples from the demons. But find her and get rid of her. So yeah, Muzan's like, I have no need for deserters. But clearly Tamio has evaded him long enough. He's kind of maybe he's given up on her. I don't know. But he's like, you're the only one I can turn to. Funny he says that, and she's just like, she's like a damn cat, like looking up at her master, just like, she's like, oh, okay. She's a girl clad in a kimono with a hemp leaf pattern and a checkered belt. Can't miss her. She's somewhat fashion forward. But God, I love, again, girl got thick legs, and I love it. And she's pissed. You hurt her brother. Oh my God. And I love that you have the green and the orange, the two secondary colors, like next to each other in the black and white. It's great. And yeah, so she says she's going to torture Nezuko to death, and then Tanjiro collapses. He's out. I'm like, ugh. And then, of course, Nezuko getting her legs cut off. But then she grows them back pretty darn quick. Her regeneration abilities. And I just love that Daki goes, huh? Because she's so convinced that Nezuko isn't going to be able to regenerate her limbs. And Nezuko's like, nope, yoink, I did. And then she grows these like leaf patterns all over her. Like has all of these leaf patterns. Oh yeah, and you can see her stomach because her obi got slashed there. Her belt got slashed. Yeah, and then grows the horn. Like just looking like a demon. But now, yeah, she's got the ribbon on one side and the horn on the other. And has the leaf pattern. Oh my God. And I was wanting to hear her talk in this episode, but I don't think she will. I don't think she'll talk in this. I think she'll be too concerned with the battle and then won't talk in the end. But yeah, and then Daki says she has this power of an upper rank demon. So of course, right? Seems legit. The Kamado family's got some secrets, I feel, that are going to come out to light. Oh, I love it. And so we hear the sibling talking. You and our sister are gentle but scary when you get mad. And it's from another sibling's perspective, right? Okay. And then we see Nezuko like wanting to protect him. Oh, I love this. And her just going after her. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And yeah, so Daki cuts her legs off again, but she instead just uses the knee and is like, screw you! And grew her legs back instantly. Oh my God. It's great. So I'm like, so Daki's gonna fight Nezuko, and Nezuko looks just as scary as Tanjiro. It's great. This demon horn's growing out of her head. Why not? And that's where the episode ends, because of course that's where it ends. So this was a really good episode. It wasn't quite as cliffhangery as it could have been. But now we have Nezuko versus Daki. Tengen and them still aren't there yet. I'm sure they're going to try to get Tanjiro out of there because he's probably like super injured, needs to get out. But the question is, how is Daki going to run away? I could see Daki running away. I could see Daki being like, oh, I need to collect myself and then come back and attack her. Especially if Tengen shows up. I don't know. We're at the halfway point of the season, which is crazy to think. There are only 11 episodes in this season and we're at episode 6 already. So I feel as though the rest of this season, we only have 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, we have 5 episodes left. But the way that fights work in this series, I feel like the rest of the season is just going to be this battle with Daki. Like that's going to be it. I feel like that at the end of the battle is going to be the end of the season. But I don't know. Daki may run away and they may regroup, or they may just carry on this battle and keep going and it just keeps getting layered and layered. I don't know how that's going to work. But this episode was really good. It was bonkers. I loved it. And I'm really excited to see the fight between Daki and Nezuko, if we get any more of it, or if it ends abruptly as soon as Tengen and Zenitsu and Inosuke show up. But I'm really excited to hear your thoughts down below. We got some world building. We got some questions that I'm assuming are going to get answered as we go. Gonna be a fun time. But in the meantime, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back next week with episode 7 of Demon Slayer Season 2. Bye.